my wish. Right. Your wish is granted.
Wait. Look.
I'll take it. Oh, how do you see Tom?
What is that, one of your friends?
No, they all know I go down by 6.
Terry, you do not need any more trouble. It defeats your own purpose.
Yeah.
I'll be there in a second.
And then we're going to go to Cole's after, right?
Yes, I promise.
Now, hurry!
This is Whoopi Goldberg, who had a remarkable movie debut in The Color Purple, and now plays a computer operator in her second film, a comedy thriller named Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Jumpin' Jack Flash is an easy movie to review. It contains a fine and funny and likable character played by Whoopi Goldberg, who regrettably is placed in a lot of silly cloak and dagger and chase situations. We like her for sure, but not a lot of what she has to endure. Goldberg plays a computer operator who gets a message on her computer screen from an English spy trapped in Russia who calls himself Jumpin' Jack Flash. That's the title, of course, of the Rolling Stones song. But in order to communicate with him, she needs to know his secret password, which he has told her is part of the song. So, at home, she tries to do what a lot of adults have trouble doing, which is deciphering the lyrics to a rock song.
This has got some weird lyrics. Speak English.
That's a cute bit, something that sounds as funny as we know Whoopi Goldberg to be. But then comes the espionage caper scenes, and she finds herself being dragged through the streets of New York while phoning for help.
Stop! Call the police! You can't miss me. I'm a little black woman in a big silver box with a top of things that's full.
And they even pull the telephone booth up the wrong way up the street against traffic. Of course, that'll draw no attention whatsoever. The spies would not want to draw attention to themselves. It's a ridiculous scene. That scene could be played by any TV actor or be a part of any hack made-for-TV movie. It has nothing to do with the intelligence of Whoopi Goldberg's character in this film. Jumpin' Jack Flash is very bright when Whoopi Goldberg just talks. It's sort of stupid when she is repeatedly involved in shootouts and traffic accidents like that one on the streets of New York. So as much as I like her character, I can't recommend the film.
I can't recommend it either. Whoopi Goldberg is the only interesting or original or creative element in this entire movie. This screenplay is bankrupt. It has 4... And I believe that you had 4 people rewriting each other's ideas until finally they had managed to turn it from anything that had a shred of originality into something that was an absolute anthology of cliches and lousy old ideas from 16 other movies.
Here's what I think that the basic problem that the director, Penny Marshall, from the actress who I guess this is her first movie, and I think, and again, there's script problems and then the directing problems. An actress or an actor has a certain intelligence level that we can see right through the camera.
That's right.
If they're playing below that, because they rarely play above it, but if they're playing below that, the movie is bombing. Whoopi Goldberg, when she is talking naturally, she could extemporize a better script, just extemporize. She does it in her nightclub act. and we don't get that intelligence level.
And there's even another thing going on in this movie, and that is that a lot of the time, she's not playing below her intelligence level. It's just everybody else in the movie who is.
Right.
You know, the bank manager who wears the toupee,
Yeah.
and the people who work at the next computer terminal. These people are all absolute clones. We have an IQ of about 6, and here's Whoopi Goldberg. She's so warm, so interesting.
Yeah.
Why not put her in a good movie? A movie like this, she's such a strange person on the screen anyway,
Yeah.
that a movie like this could destroy her career. They'll say, well, she didn't
She was
work.
just
When
a
in
one-
fact, she did work. She's the only thing in the movie that worked.
Good point.
Okay, coming up next, a comic love story starring Tom Hanks. It has a short title, but that title is big.
No, really, I'll watch.
Come on, it's fun. I'll do it with you. Come on.
The film is called Big, and it's the 4th movie in about the last year and a half to feature the theme of adults and children changing bodies. You would think that subject had been mine to death. I certainly wasn't excited about walking in to see Big, but just as one of those earlier films, Vice Versa, worked because of Judge Reinhold's wonderful impersonation of a boy inside a man's body, so succeeds the film Big, with Tom Hanks doing a fine job of playing a short 12-year-old boy who gets his wish and becomes a big 35-year-old man working at a toy company. One of his classmates, in on the secret, can't believe Hanks' good fortune.
So what did they make you do for all this?
Well, I play with all of this stuff, and then I go in and I tell them what I think.
And they pay you for that?
Yeah.
Suckers!
Hanks' youthful attitude appeals to his boss, who is really tired of working with stodgy adults and all their research tests. Hanks tests toys the old-fashioned way. He plays them.
Chopsticks.
That's good-looking, that's funny, a very good scene. But what makes the film extra special is the relationship that develops between Hanks and a female adult co-worker at the toy company, played by Elizabeth Perkins.
There's something I think I should tell you.
What?
You know, every one of these movies has that coming-of-age sexual sequence in them, and this film has one, but it is really sweetly and nicely written. The two of them are truly the heart of the surprising, endearing little comedy. We've seen similar scenes in other films. They haven't been written as well. Credit writers Gary Ross and Ann Spielberg, Steven Spielberg's sister, for that. And these characters as a couple haven't been played this honestly before. Credit Tom Hanks and Elizabeth Perkins for that. I liked this little movie called Big.
I liked it a whole lot, too. And, you know, the one thing that I figured out on seeing this film is if this is the 4th version,
right.
You know, if they do it long enough, they're finally going to get it right.
Right.
And this time what they realized is you don't have to have the exchange between two people. One becomes
right.
old and the other becomes young,
right.
and then you follow parallel stories.
Right.
This is just one guy. He's young, he becomes
right.
old. There's only one story, so there's twice as much time
to spend
on the character and twice as much time to get to know him. And it is really a good performance in terms of showing that that kid is inside.
Well, and the other thing that the time frees up is then he can have a relationship with somebody, and it can mean something, as opposed to if you got two people that have to relate to this one person and be shocked, like in the George Burns film 18 Again, where it's really his girlfriend or whatever. Everything's cut in half. This film really allows you to...
In the previous movies, it was misunderstandings rather than relationships.
Yeah.
I also like the relationship here that he has with his boss, Robert Loggia, the man who was dancing on that piano.
Right.
He is the only guy in the whole movie who seems to understand exactly who this strange person is and why he likes him.
Robert Loggia is an actor who doesn't get enough credit. I'm glad you mentioned his name. When we come back, Robert De Niro plays a man whose mind has been asleep for 30 years until one lucky summer when a doctor finds a way to bring him back in Awakenings.
When you say people, you mean living people? Well, I'm here to apply for a research position in your neurology lab.
That's Robin Williams as a neurologist whose experience has mostly been limited to earthworms until he's hired by a Bronx mental hospital in the new movie Awakenings. Based on a factual book by Oliver Sacks and set in 1969, the movie tells the story of a ward in the hospital that the staff calls the garden because they view the patients there as vegetables to be fed and watered.
She has no other living relatives, and they say she has always been as she is now, with no response or comprehension. And yet,
These patients apparently have not had a conscious thought in years. They're somewhere else, helpless cases, until Williams begins to wonder if an experimental new drug named L-Dopa might help them.
Now, you know better than to make a leap like that. You want there to be a connection. That doesn't mean there is one.
What I believe, what I know, is these people are alive inside.
Massive doses of the drug do seem to bring about a miracle. The patients come back to life. And one of the awakened ones, who has been in a catatonic state for 30 years, since he was 20 years old, is played by Robert De Niro.
Are you visiting someone?
okay, thanks.
No.
You work here?
I live here.
You're a patient?
That's $1.80, baby.
You don't look like a patient.
Hello?
One of the movie's best scenes shows De Niro asking to be treated like a real person.
Look, I'm not a criminal. I've committed no crime. I'm not a danger to myself or to others. And yet I'm still not allowed to go for a walk on my own by myself. You didn't wake a thing, you woke a person.
Awakenings is not only a wonderfully intelligent and emotionally moving film, but a fascinating one at the technical level. The director, Penny Marshall, has the patience to follow along as the doctor pieces together his tiny bits of evidence until it appears he has the answer to a medical mystery. This movie is an intellectual challenge with an emotional payoff. The performances are all right on the money, but I was especially impressed by Robin Williams, who is very disciplined and focused here and does a touching job of creating this man who in his own way is almost as cut off as his patients are.
Well, that's interesting. The performance that I liked in the film was the De Niro performance.
I loved it.
And I've had a problem with the Robin Williams character. I watched him when he's a very uptight guy. He can't relate to another nurse there who really cares for him and wants to bring out his humanity. And so he's a little tight and forced, and I just saw that. Maybe I know Robin Williams from, you know, comedy and from seeing him in other pictures so well that I really didn't buy that uptightness. It just seemed to be a little too mechanical for me. And so after I saw this picture even a second time, it was more that I appreciated what De Niro was doing. He has a real sine curve kind of role here. It's a full performance. The tics that he has don't seem to particularly gimmicky. It seems real, and I ended up caring for him.
Well,
and his
De
journey.
Niro is terrific. In a way, this movie follows the same curve as Charlie did more than 20 years ago, a guy who is out somewhere and comes back to us and then leaves again. But I liked Robin Williams very much in this movie, and I criticized him in the Dead Poets Society because I thought I saw some of that, some of those mannerisms that we're familiar with. Here, I thought we were looking at real acting.
Not for me this time. At the same time, the film has a big heart, and I suppose it does make you look at people for their potential rather than for what you think is a lack of potential.
Number 8 on my list of the year's 10 best films is a movie that made me feel and made me think about the fragile existence of the human personality. It's called Awakenings, and it stars Robin Williams as a shy, introverted neurologist who has a ward filled with patients who have been frozen in time and space for many years. Life has come to a halt for them. They can't speak, they can't move, until he gets an idea that a new experimental drug might bring them out of their endless trances. Robert De Niro co-stars in the film as Leonard, one of the patients, who with the help of the new drug is able to awaken and experience the joys and sorrows of real life after 30 years on the sidelines.
I'm not a danger to myself or to others, and yet I'm still not allowed to go for a walk on my own by myself. You didn't wake a thing, you woke a person. I am a person.
Awakenings is based on a famous book by Dr. Oliver Sacks, who was the inspiration for the Robin Williams character, and indeed, the whole movie is based on fact, on the bittersweet experiences of patients who were released from their private prisons only to face all sorts of other kinds of problems. The film is directed by Penny Marshall, who doesn't insult our intelligence when she deals with the medical details, but can find the emotion in the story, too.
Well, I liked, and we just reviewed this picture, and I liked the Robert De Niro performance, especially true. It does have a good heart to it. I found that Robin Williams' character was a little mannered for my taste, but it is a good film, not great.
Okay, coming up next, The Girls of Summer, A League of Their Own, the women's baseball movie with Gina Davis and Madonna.
That's not a baseball uniform. Yeah, what do you think we are, ball players or ballerinas?
Professional women's baseball grew up in the United States as a diversion during World War II. And two of the characters we see recruited are a couple of Oregon farmers' daughters, played by Gina Davis, and kid sister Lori Petty. John Lovitz from Saturday Night Live plays the fast-talking scout.
You ever hear Walter Harvey makes Harvey bars? You know, the candy.
Yeah, we feed them to the cows when they're constipated.
That's the guy. He's starting the girls' baseball league, so he can make a buck while the boys are overseas. Want to play? They'll pay you $75 a week.
We only make 30 at the dairy.
Well then, this would be more, wouldn't it?
Joining other young women for tryouts in Chicago, Gina Davis and her sister encounter Madonna and her buddy, played by comic Rosie O'Donnell.
All these girls gonna be in the league? You wish.
You do wish.
They're gonna have 4 teams, 16 girls to a team.
That's right.
64 girls.
Yeah, what are you, a genius?
You know, they got over 100 girls here, so, some of you are gonna have to go home.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Come on, Doris.
Those people are jerks.
What do you mean, some of us? Do it. Okay, some of them are going home.
The girls find out that they're being marketed as much for their legs as for their bats when they meet the league's promotion manager, played by David Strathern.
If you can't play ball in this, you can't play ball with us. Right now, there are 38 girls getting train tickets home who'll play in a bathing suit if I ask them.
One of the best characters in the movie is the team's crusty manager, played by Tom Hanks. He's a former home run hitting major leaguer who blew his career through alcoholism. Now he takes out his frustration on his ball players who are too emotional for his macho taste.
You let the tying run get on second, and we lost the lead because of you. Now you start using your head. That's not love. That's 6 feet above your ass.
Are you crying?
No.
Are you crying?
Are you crying?
There's no crying.
There's no crying in baseball.
Now that is a classic baseball scene, a very well-written scene by Lowell Gans and Babaloo Mandel, who did write Parenthood, and well acted by Tom Hanks, who was smart to take this juicy supporting role. He may have done it as a favor in part to director Penny Marshall, who directed him, of course, in the hit comedy Big, but the guess here is that he will really have done himself and his own career a favor at next year's Oscars. Some of the characters are corny in a league of their own, but they still get to us in the warm ending to this movie that is genuinely nostalgic because we met so many memorable characters.
You know, the interesting subtext of this movie is that so many of these women themselves don't take their careers very seriously, including the Gina Davis character, who we see many years later going back to that reunion. Sure, they're out there, they're filling up the stands, they're hitting home runs, they're going to the Women's World Series, but at the same time, they're waiting for those letters from their boyfriends who are off fighting the war. And at one point, Gina Davis is ready to drop everything and even walk out on the World Series just to be with her man. So it's about that period when women's roles were shifting and the women themselves were uncertain about exactly where their orientation should be.
I enjoyed the film, as I mentioned, but I'll tell you one criticism I'd like to make, and that is I would like to have seen this narrowed in terms of the number of characters, so some of them that I really did like a lot would have been more fully written. Did you feel that way?
You know, oddly enough, I felt the Madonna character was completely unnecessary.
Yes.
And seemed to be either underwritten or her scenes were edited out. There's no real purpose for her appearance in this movie.
Box office, I think, is the
Maybe
reason.
so. Who knows? When we come back, Danny DeVito goes to basic training as a teacher in Renaissance Man.
I've never taught before, and you've never thought before. So, good luck to all of us.
Now, why don't you tell me what you'd be willing to do?
If you give me a check, I'd be willing to cash it.
Danny DeVito plays an unemployed advertising man there in a scene from Renaissance Man, and this is the new movie directed by Penny Marshall, who after hits like Big, Awakenings, and A League of Their Own, has completely lost her touch, I'm afraid, this time. In the movie, DeVito is fired from an ad agency, applies for unemployment compensation, and is offered a job as a teacher, not in high school, not in college, but in the Army.
Looking for Captain Murdoch?
Yeah.
The AEC is building 2310. You want building 4475. Here's what you do. You go right here, take another right at the PX. Go half a click till you see the DPTM center. Then take a left.
PX.
If you hit the RFPC, you've gone too far.
DeVito is given a class of 8 underachievers and told to teach them basic comprehension, whatever that means. So he starts them out on Shakespeare, and after initial reluctance, they began to relate to Hamlet so much that, wow, they produced their own classroom rap version of the play.
To be or not to be, the double D MCs is letting it be. Let be to be or not to be, the double D MCs is letting it be.
From the moment we see the camp's so-called victory tower, a challenging obstacle course, it's obvious and inevitable that DeVito will have to climb it.
First thing, don't look down.
Bill, what the hell are you doing?
I told you not to look down. Everybody looks down when you tell them not to look down. You know that?
The elements in Renaissance Man are all painfully sincere, but the movie is amazingly bad. Not a single moment rings true. The screenplay was obviously made by cross-pollinating Dead Poets Society, which was about an inspirational teacher, and Private Benjamin, which was about a fish out of water and basic training. The result is an embarrassment from beginning to end, a labored, contrived, unconvincing movie that never even manages to answer such questions as, even if they do like Hamlet, what does that have to do with basic training? Renaissance Man is a terrible example of what happens when formulas are recycled without any understanding of why they worked in the first place.
Well, this is going to shock you, but I enjoyed some of it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I'm shocked.
Good. What I liked was that DeVito seemed to be enjoying. If you watch this picture closely, I know you'll never see it again, but if you watched it closely, you would see how much he was enjoying being with those young recruits. And there were times when I was watching him where he almost cracked up. And I realized that there was a lot of good feeling in that classroom with them as they went on this ridiculous enterprise. And you're right, I mean, what does Hamlet have to do with basic training except to give these kids self-confidence in their minds, I suppose. It's the same thing with the tower in his mind, self-confidence. And on that basis of the goodwill, when they're all together, I like the picture.
Well, you've mentioned the only part of the picture that I did like.
They had a lot of fun in that classroom.
Danny DeVito is one of the most likable actors.
Yes, he is.
That we have in the movies, and it's almost impossible for him to inhabit a character that you don't like and that you don't identify with. What I really objected to was just one logical impossibility and consistency after another, right down to the end where they have all that stuff about the final exam, and you know, if they don't have to take an exam, but if they do and they flunk it, then they drop out of basic training. I'm trying to figure that out. You know?
That's not the best part of the picture. The best part of the picture is that young cast of recruits. I think there's some fresh, good faces in that picture. They have boys from the hood and boys from the hills, and I think there was an interesting group of young actors, and some good stars will come out of it.
Okay.
Coming up next, two of the most charismatic performers around, Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston co-star in a remake called The Preacher's Wife.
Nice to meet you, Dudley. You a reporter?
No.
Social worker?
No, I'm here in answer to your request.
Request?
For help?
Denzel Washington plays an angel sent by God to help a disbelieving reverend under duress in The Preacher's Wife. And at first, and for a long time thereafter, the preacher, played by Courtney B. Vance, doesn't believe Washington is really an angel, even though he's asked God for help in his struggle against a real estate developer who is threatening to demolish his church.
Will you excuse me?
Sure.
Thank you.
Wow. I'm sorry. I'll, try another approach.
Also stunned by the angel's appearance is the preacher's wife, played by Whitney Houston, and her mother, Jennifer Lewis. And the film has a lot of fun with how handsome Denzel Washington is.
It's obvious where Julia's beauty comes from.
And me with my hair looking like this.
Naturally, the centerpiece of the film is the flirtatious relationship that develops between the angel and the preacher's wife. But I had a hard time accepting that the preacher was so bad as to ignore his wife and child as much as it is suggested in this screenplay adaptation of The Bishop's Wife.
You know you love him.
Yeah, he knows it too. That's the problem. He knows I'll always be there. Just like a pet. Ouch!
See? God doesn't like ugly.
All the attention given to his wife threatens the preacher, I guess, as well as should.
I want you to leave. Now.
Now?
Yes, now.
I don't think I can do that, Henry. Check the angel handbook. It says I can't leave until I'm through, I think.
I liked a lot of The Preacher's Wife, but the character of the preacher himself I thought was badly written. I didn't understand his motivations most of the time. This is a remake, as I mentioned, of a 1947 movie, The Bishop's Wife, and if you're going to do an update on a 50-year-old movie, I think it could be grounded a little more in reality with good effect and still maintain the fairy tale quality of the film. So, thumbs up for me on The Preacher's Wife. It's hard to name a more appealing couple of stars than Whitney Houston and Denzel Washington, but I got a lot of problems with this
Okay,
picture.
I give it a marginal thumbs up, too, and I had some of the same problems you had, and also I felt that Penny Marshall, the director, could have punched up the humor a little bit more. I mean, the villain isn't very bad. The jokes aren't... I mean, it could have, if she'd tightened the screws and not made it so laid back and sweet and warm-hearted and fuzzy, it could have been a great holiday movie instead of just a nice one.
Well, let me ask a question that maybe people are wondering as they listen to us. We don't seem very enthusiastic about the movie.
It's the people. It's Denzel and Whitney. They're worth the...
He is appealing.
Yeah.
There's nobody more appealing than him.
Now, a theological problem. This guy cannot be an angel because he says he died 30 years ago. He's a human who came back from Earth. Humans don't get to be angels. Angels and humans are two different characters. Angels can't feel sexual feelings. So there's a big theological difficulty with this movie that I hope doesn't distract people too much, as it did me.
Okay. Well, I wonder if you had the same concern about The Preacher.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, he's a plot point. The Preacher is a plot point. He has to do it so that he can get better from having done it.
Now let's recap our reaction to the new movies on this show. Both Roger and I were disappointed in Jumpin' Jack Flash. Whoopi Goldberg's fine performance is wasted by too many chases. 2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs up for Big, the charming comedy with Tom Hanks as a kid who's inside a grown-up body. 2 thumbs up for Awakenings, fascinating subject matter with an emotional payoff. 2 more thumbs up for A League of Their Own, the warmly nostalgic look at professional women baseball players during World War II.
We split on Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito teaching Army dunderhead Shakespeare. I think he's funny, and so are the recruits, but Roger feels director Penny Marshall has lost her way.
2 more thumbs up for The Preacher's Wife, a heartwarming holiday story that could have turned up the energy a little, but still generates a lot of sweetness and life.
Okay, burn it in.
Settles in. Pops it up. Foul. Henson should have no trouble with this. She's under it. Uncle Elmore's socks. What did she do? Woo!